Call the meeting to order. Declarations, conflicts of interest.
No.
Approval of agenda.
Are you
Do we
going to
have-
have something?
Yes, if we could add a report 21-35 to the agenda on the award of the Canada electrification.
Sure.
Good.
Approval of the minutes.
Yep.
Business rising from the minutes.
None.
Reports and discussions. Living shoreline update.
So I'll just maybe say a couple words here before Quinn gets started. So
Okay.
I don't know if you've actually met Quinn. Quinn Howard has been our client
I have.
since intern for the last 6 months.
Yeah.
She's a landscape architect by trade and has been doing quite a lot of work with us on our climate adaptation work. And so she's going to talk to you a little bit about our Living Shoreline project and just provide an update for you.
Thank you guys for having me and all the support that has happened in the city of Charlottetown just to make this project come into reality. Councillor Tweel was down with me on the shoreline on Friday, I believe it was, and saw a little bit of the work that has happened.
Quinn, can you just be a little louder?
Yes, sorry.
Turn up the volume.
Councillor Tweel was down with me on the shore on Friday, and so got to see some of the work that we have been doing. And this Living Shorelines project happens in partnership with the PEI Watershed Alliance, the City of Stratford, Creative PEI, the Mi'kmaq Confederacy, and a number of other technical partners, including Transcoastal Adaptation, St. Mary's University, and CB West. In the City of Charlottetown, and this project was funded through an Environment and Climate Change Canada Challenge grant that the city was a partner on and was approved, and the funds that the city contributes to the project were approved as part of the 2021-2022 operating budget. And this project involves kind of three components, and the first one was the capacity development and staff training. So a number of city staff had the opportunity to participate in the Green Shores Level 1 and 2 training. And this is a program run by BCIT, which is a technical college out of British Columbia, and teaches living shoreline methodology to so we will be able to implement these projects in the future. And I would have the opportunity to take this course, as well as Alistair and one of our other interns, Risa. So really building out what is possible for the city in the future in terms of capacity around living shorelines. The second part of this project is, of course, the Living Shorelines install, so our demonstration site that has been installed, and this occurred is currently in the process of happening, which is great, and is located at the intersection of Murchison and Riverside Drive down at QEH. If you guys can think about the viewing area platform, where there was originally a gate-in wall and viewing structure, that was our site. It was selected in the spring and has gone through the process of design and development to come into reality of what it is today. Hopefully you guys will have the opportunity to come down either next week and see kind of our full project site and all that happened. And this project was made possible, or the work that was made possible here happened in partnership with the province. So the province did a lot of great work in terms of in-kind construction management and skills. And so a lot of action there, and I invite you guys to come see it in the future. And the third part is integrated community art, and this happened through a call out for regional artists under the title of Riverworks, and we had the first artistic performance happen on July 16th and 18th, and that was actually conducted by the wonderful Doug, who's over there.
Doug's in there working at his desk.
I know.
Never stops working.
Yes, and so some really wonderful documentation happened of pre-construction And Doug has come down multiple times throughout the construction process to take additional photos, and then we'll be performing again post-construction. So we'll really have a beautiful set of before and after photos that speak not only to the technical components of the project, but also kind of larger and more ephemeral conversations around what it means to restore a shoreline, what it means to take these big actions and think about removing human infrastructure and replace it with living landscape architecture. So yeah, hopefully all done and dusted for Wednesday, and I invite you guys to come see our project. Yeah.
Thank you.
How big an area did you do?
So there are kind of three actions that happened, and the total shoreline that we changed would be around 200 meters.
Oh, wow.
I would say 200 meters. So there's the viewing area, which is about 20, and then
So the viewing area down.
viewing area about
down
50-ish meters downstream towards the causeway. And then between the viewing platform and the stormwater culverts was also, we had bank protection applied. And then we did some bank building around the stormwater culverts. And then a little bit more bank protection on the upstream side of the stormwater culverts.
Okay.
Yeah. So a big, one of the biggest actions is the removal of the Gabion wall, and that happened in partnership with the province. And then, so we had kind of a strong and hard line that looked like this. We removed the Gabion wall and then changed the grade of the slope, and this helps dissipate wave action. And so the biggest change you will notice is the removal of, that kind of viewing area and the change in the bank slope. And this, having the Gabion wall there, what was occurring was additional erosion, both at the toe of the Gabion as well as on either side.
So where was the Gabion wall?
The Gabion wall,
Just opposite to the Sherwood Home parking lot.
exactly.
Not far either, was it?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
were up that far? That was
Yeah.
the-
Up that far. On the H road. And the Gabion wall, it changed the currents and the wave energy, so you get additional the wave comes in, smashes against this
Yeah.
big piece of hard infrastructure and pulls the sediment out, as well as creates these funny little currents on either side of the Gabion wall, which pull into the bank and then eat away at the base of it. And so you get this additional undercutting of the bank that happens. And so you eat away on either side. It was really great. I had a conversation with a nurse that had been coming down to the shoreline multiple times, and over her time working at QEH, and she said it's just crazy to watch what has happened since they installed the Gabion wall and kind of the bank erosion that happened on either side. And so by changing the slope, as well as we have 8 to 10 perpendicular logs that were placed into the toe of the bank, and that just helps stabilize everything. These will also kind of stick out, and with the way that the current dynamics work in that section, you have the tide coming in, so sediment comes up and will get captured in these logs, and then as the current moves down the Hillsborough, we get additional sediment capture that happens in these logs. And so you're building the beach by changing this slope, as well as we are doing things, I talked briefly about the stormwater culverts. We built that bank up using large 1-ton sandstone boulders, and those will slowly degrade over time and also be captured by our perpendicular log structure. So again, we're feeding the beach, and then up slope of our perpendicular logs, we are applying a planting strategy with marsh grass, dune grass, and another type of pectinata. And so all that, again, we are capturing sediment as it kind of moves around on site, and growing essentially what is a geotextile
Okay.
with the root mat.
So, Councillor, there it is right there. You're right.
Oh, no, I've been buying a few times.
Yeah.
And I
So-
know that's been around really big. The label there used to be quite a few feet away, so that's all.
So, Mr. Chair, could I just follow up? When was the gable wall installed, do we know?
Ooh, I do
10
not know the
years?
answer to that question.
Councillor Bernard, was it that long?
How long?
How long ago was it installed, that gable wall?
I have no idea. I think that was there enough.
Yeah, yeah. Problem with gable.
Because I walk around the trail, and I mean, the trail does go down onto the waterfront and back up.
Yeah,
And I don't
that's
remember
true,
seeing
yeah.
it even well anywhere along there.
It's right below this, where Doug Dumay had his, on the shoreline presentation.
It's
I was
right-
down.
Yeah, it's right, it was down, or, it's right there, exactly.
Right there.
Exactly. And that was kind of the purpose of the art.
So that must have been only in the last few years, because I know there's been concern about the walkway. getting
Rolling away.
Mhm, especially beside the stormwater culverts, and that was kind of one of the factors that helped us make our decision, is there was, the asphalt path was slumping, and if you, like you needed to do something, or else the AT path would be heading into the ocean, and your stormwater culverts would need additional protection.
So I wouldn't say it was getting long, and it must have been 3-4 years.
Yeah, so
Wow.
Quinn, I remember an engineer with Transportation Public Works, in order to stop erosion of Prince Edward Island, we had to gable wall the whole island, because it's just as you said, problem with gable walls is water will find the weakest point, and if there's no wall beyond the end points of the gable wall, that's where it comes in, and that's where it starts eroding and creates islands. So where did you pick up, where did this come from, Ramona, this concept of taking down the gable walls and replacing them with natural vegetation? Is this research you did at, are you at the University of Guelph?
So I I graduated from the University of Guelph, yes, with degree in landscape architecture, but the concept of living shorelines and nature-based solutions is something that is being more broadly discussed all across Canada, and our technical partners, Transcoastal Adaptation out of St. Mary's, as well as CB West, this is something that they have kind of been pioneering in the Atlantic coast. Some of this original research comes from the eastern United States out of Maine, as well as the Green Shores program, which is based in British Columbia. So these two kind of regions have been pioneering this research, and then Transcoastal Adaptation and CB West have been taking that kind of methodology and adapting it for Atlantic Canada.
Okay.
And so that's where this comes from. The choice around the Gavian Wall and QEH falls out of a number of factors. One being visibility, like where can we do this that makes sense, like that is small enough for the project budget, and also provides kind of the visibility and demonstration opportunity here. And to personally, that's what I think is super interesting about this, is we have kind of three actions, three different approaches, being the bank stabilization, and Councillor Twill, you saw that, which is, the logs, and I'll talk about things, and maybe if you go down, you'll be able to kind of see them in reality. And we can provide some photos as well. But basically applying like a biomass and planting strategy to the bank that's getting undercutted, which is kind of technique one, and then the regrading of the bank, so changing our bank slope, technique two, and then the building out of the bank using the stormwater culverts, or around the stormwater culverts being technique three. And the intention here is, we have lots of Gavian wall on Prince Edward Island, and lots of rock wall that could, be helped or changed by changing the bank slope. We have lots of bank that's being eaten away, and so these kind of smaller treatments to the bank are something that a homeowner can do. And then our stormwater management more broadly, there's lots of people and capital infrastructure that dumps stormwater directly onto the beach, and how have that interface between stormwater that comes from upstream and onto the beach is a consideration in that it causes channelization on the beach. Like you have all this water rushing down onto the beach and you're gonna get, these channels dug by that. And so there's 3 kind of actions here and 3 demonstration opportunities, as well as it being very visible to the public. Like people walk by that space, people use that space. So hopefully we have 3 demonstrations of what you could do, and then done in a location where people are gonna have the opportunity to interact with it.
Good point. And just last point, Mr. Chair, Parks Canada has huge issues with their national park on the north side. Have you been reaching out to Parks Canada and what they're doing to protect their shoreline?
Not as of yet.
There's a potential.
Yeah, well,
Okay, thank you.
yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Great report, good presentation, Gwen, and excellent work. Item B, EVRFQ Award. Aman?
Mr. Chair, so as most of us know, that the RFQ for the EV purchase went out. It closed on 6th July. We received 1 submission. The submission was by All EV PEI. It met all the requirements of the RFP and had bid for 2 pre-owned vehicles. The selection committee composed of the manager of public works, manager of infrastructure and asset management, communication officer, and myself. We decided to do a pass and fail method where we looked at the bid and saw if it fulfilled all the requirements put in the RFQ. Both vehicles came with above 3 years of warranty on corrosion, powertrain, battery, and standard warranty. The committee also reviewed the health report of both of the batteries and were satisfied. Hence, unanimously decided to award all EV bid. All EV Canada Inc. is a Canadian leader of electric vehicle education sales productions with a branch in Stratford, PEI. The bid was for 2018 Chevy Bolt and a 2019 Hyundai Kona. It came to $73,396 plus taxes. Both of these vehicles are eligible for $5,000 each from the provincial government. The provincial government allows up to five of these rebates per business in an annual year. So if we make use of this rebate for these 2 vehicles, we would still be allowed to get 3 more vehicles if we decide to move forward for this year. Based on this information and then passing all the requirements, it's the recommendation of the selection committee to move forward with the purchase of the 2 electric vehicles proposed by All EV PEI.
So, Armand, the 2 vehicles came through from the one company, All EV. Okay.
So there's no 21 vehicles on the go?
In their lot, so they are pre-owned vehicle resellers. So the way we structured this RFQ, because a lot was to allow brand new vehicle bids and or 2 used vehicle bids. So we just got 1 bid, which was for 2 used vehicles. This is the first time the city has put out an RFQ asking for used vehicles, but given the technology being so new and we wanted to keep our costs low and get more exposure, that's why the selection committee was fine with this decision.
Can you tell me again who's on the selections committee?
Scott Adams, Paul Johnson, Isaac and myself.
Okay, thank you.
Just one question, Mr. Chair. Last week, ABC had on the news reported that 2018s and 2019 Shell bolts are being recalled because of the battery issue. So now, has that already been recalled because of the battery issue?
No,
Is it
sir.
on fire?
So I looked into that, there were around 69,000 vehicles which were affected by that recall.
Not this
and
one over there?
Not that one, and majority of them were within the states.
Okay, thanks, sir.
So Armand, the 73,000, that's the total price without the rebate, I assume.
Yes.
So it's actually 63,000 with two vehicles.
So we need to add tax as well, sir?
What's that?
We need to add tax. After tax on the 73,000, the price comes up to around, the tax is $11,000, right? So after adding tax and reducing $10,000, the total comes to 74,000, around.
So it covers taxes.
That's about it.
Do you need a recommendation to accept this, or just,
Yes, we do.
I'll move to accept it?
Okay.
But we still do get the HST back.
Do we get the full percent? 10%?
Yeah, sure.
So the 7,000 back,
No,
just,
I'm getting all back.
Oh,
We
so
get
it's
we get the
50%
5
back.
plus the capital acquisition, that also goes back.
we could have spent out some extras, but anyway.
Sorry, see, I never heard it.
We get the 5% back as we ordinarily do, and we also get the 10% through the capital rebate program for the property.
There you go.
But that goes into general revenue tuition.
So it will cost us less than 73 then. I guess. Okay. Perfect. Thanks, Armand.
So I'll move to accept this.
Accept.
Motion carried. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, C, Katrina. Rooted in our update.
So, as some of you will probably remember, last year we started a tree appreciation initiative called Rooted in Art. It was a partnership between Jessica and myself, and still is. And the intent of that initiative was to celebrate our urban forest and its beauty and everything that it does for us, and to kind of gain public support for a lot of the internal work that's being done around trees. For example, our tree protection bylaw. So the premise of that project was to select some of the trees around town and pair them with island artists. And the artists then created a work of art to be installed in that tree over a period of a couple weeks. And then we launched a self-guided tour so that people could go and see all of the artwork. And then each installation was accompanied by signage that educated people on that specific tree, as well as the art and the artist. So this report basically is just sort of updating you on what we plan to do this year. We plan to do something very similar. Last year we included 5 artists in the project. This year we increased the budget a little bit and are able to include 6. And this year we've also done it through an open call. So the open call just closed. It kind of fell at a funny point between the submission of this report and right now. So that has now closed and we've received 8 applications, and the selection committee meeting for that will be tomorrow. And then basically everything else will sort of proceed as it has in the past. That selection committee is composed of city staff as well as some representatives from the Arts Advisory Board. And then those selected artists from that meeting will be installing their artwork in September this year as opposed to October, which we did last year. Last year we sort of focused on the downtown core. This year we've sort of shifted it a little bit to kind of target a new area of the city, but that still has fairly high foot traffic. So the route will begin and end in Jogas Park, and then kind of be over there, shifted a little bit over from the downtown core. And you'll see too, attached to the report is the route if you're interested in seeing which trees are involved and kind of where it focuses. And then this year as well, if everything allows, we're hoping to do a launch event with it as well, where the artists will be on site. We do some music and refreshments in the park and have people kind of do the tour and be able to chat with the artists as well as the city staff. And so $6,000 was approved for the project under the operational budget for this year. So that will cover the honorariums for the artists as well as that launch event and any promotions.
Excellent. Good job.
Good job.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, could I just add this year, the 20th anniversary of the designated green spaces in Jogas Park, September 21st. And Melanie Bryant is trying to organize something.
Perfect.
20 years. I think I was chair of Parks and Recreation. Great moment. Are you looking at a certain date in September?
Yeah, it should still be up then, actually. So we were thinking of having it installed around the 9th or the 10th, and then it would be up for around 2 weeks, so we could certainly connect there. That's wonderful.
Thank you, Katrina.
Excuse me.
Okay, D, water fountain, Alistair?
All right, first I can just give you an update on our water fountains. We had purchased 3 water fountain refill stations, and they've been installed in the Hillsborough Community Center and the Winslow Soccer Complex, respectively by Public Works and Parks and Recreation. We had a 3rd fountain that was intended to go to Malcolm Dara Community Center, but the fountain in the Sherwood Firewood Station stopped working, so we approved they use that fountain to replace it, and Public Works will be ordering a new fountain to go into Malcolm Dara. So with the remaining funds in our capital budget, we have approximately $21,000 for our water fountains. So we are going to recommend that we install a outdoor water fountain in Rochford Square. There's a convenient, I think it's on the opposite side of Kent Street, there's a water main that would be able to hook up to, and there'd also be a storm drain to connect to as well, but we could also explore the idea of connecting the outdoor to a French drain. And this is just one of the squares that hasn't received a fountain yet, so it would be good for people passing through the square or any events that take place in the square itself. But that being said, we have estimates based on some work done 2 years ago that the installation would be approximately $20,000, and then just from looking online, we'd have to spend around $5,000 to $10,000 depending on the model and make of the fountain. So that exceeds our budget that we have, so we would need some additional funding from another department or a partner to have this work, have this fountain installed, just based on previous estimates. So it'd probably be a bit more expensive than that $20,000 for the installation, just due to inflation.
Thank you.
Has there been any consideration for one of these at the Victoria Park, for a lot of public use of the pathway, or Sims Field?
It's not something, I can't remember if we discussed that or not, if there's already,
We looked at Confederation Landing, but it looks like Parks and Rec is going to move ahead with a bathroom install in the next couple of years at Confederation Landing, so we thought we could add a fountain to whatever structure they create at a much lower price. We
Just
did
think it's
look
like going along the
at
boardwalk through the park, right? So a lot of people walk and they, go along, they can fill the water bottles and so on.
We can look at that alternatively. I think at this point, we recognize that we're going to need to either request additional funds from water and sewer. We had hoped to have DCI as a partner, and they had expressed interest in previous locations, DCI, but they wanted something right in the downtown core, and unfortunately, we racked our brains and could not find a place where it would work.
And I know you're running one stock, but in the future, has that been considered something?
It hasn't yet, but I think that's an excellent idea.
yeah, I'm just looking at the GIS. So there is a water main that goes down between or it looks like the clubhouse there.
Yeah, there's none on the boardwalk. The water
Yes.
is on the boardwalk.
No, it wouldn't, but there could potentially, by the tennis courts or somewhere else within the park,
Yeah.
there could be a potential site that we can look into in the future.
Nothing
as well.
bring a line from the canteen down the boardwalk.
There'd be an expense to it, wouldn't cheap. But you do have the line between what's the road that connects the baseball fields with the tennis courts? What's the name of that road? It's closed off.
Yeah,
But
I know what
there
the
are
what you
water
mean. I
lines
don't know
there,
what the name is.
correct?
Yeah.
Did I, Alistair, Sherwood, whereabouts in Sherwood was it to go? Did you say?
Malcolm Dara? Or
Yeah.
the Hillsborough Community Center.
So there's Hillsborough, Winslow, Malcolm Dara, and then.
The Sherwood Fire Station.
Oh, Sherwood Fire Station?
Yeah.
It was right in front of the fire station?
I think it's
I think it's
inside.
inside.
So those
Oh,
three,
Yo, bro.
yeah, those 3 are indoor fountains and water bottle refill stations.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Next item, Ramona?
Okay, so the last item, and we just met this morning, so as you know, we've had posted our transit electrification planning and consulting services RFP. That was posted for, I think, 4 weeks total, and we just closed last week. We did receive 4 submissions. We met this morning, the Transit CATCC met this morning to go through the proposals and do the scoring, and we have come up with a recommendation for our respective councils. So we would like to move forward with an award to Wood Environment and Infrastructure Solutions. The amount of their bid was $121,500 plus taxes. We had a project budget of $200,000 included in our project budget for this, of which $150,000 would be City of Charlottetown funds. We did ask in our RFP that all of the bidders include an additional $20,000 in contingency on top of their bid price to allow for if we need additional work done, if there's something that costs more than we thought. We also got them to give us hourly rates on their consulting services. So we would ask that in addition to the $121,000 that we also have $20,000 that would be used if necessary and at the discretion of the CATCC for the project completion. So this work will include, they'll do modeling for us, they'll develop all the specifications, help us through the tendering process. They'll also do everything for our facility design, putting in funding applications, basically, and then helping us finalize where our final location for the facility will be. We'll have some support from them on that. So it will be fairly extensive, and we'll be working closely with them over the next 4 to 6 months.
So has there been any conversation with the province, possibly working with them on recharging?
We're definitely in conversations with them. I met with a couple members of the Net Zero group yesterday on a different project, but we did discuss that there's things we can learn from each other. Wood has also been working with the province on a couple of their projects as well. So I think there'll be overlap there, but there is some parallels between the transit and the school bus system, but I think we'll also want to have our own sort of unique approach to it as well, the transit focus.
We have a location?
We're looking at a couple of locations for, some of the things we have to think about is the size of the property. There is a current location that we could use adjacent to the existing bus depot that's owned by T3 Transit. So that's a potential site, and we have a couple other sites that we've tossed around. So we need support from the consultant just in evaluating these in terms of where they work, do they have. We don't know how much spot size we need for the facility or anything, so. But we'll come back to our councils to get that approved.
Mr. Chair, could I just ask, Ramona, I'm looking under your budget, so projects, environmental pillar, economic pillar, so $242,370?
It should be under the transit one, section 17. No, 18, sorry. It's under the operational budget for special projects.
Okay, so projects is $325,000.
Yes. So that's not just, that wouldn't just include this project, but that's where the funds for the project
And
are.
is T3 making a
Yeah, and there may
contribution,
be
or
other
just
phases
or
to
the
this.
benefactor of what we're doing here?
Yeah, pretty much with all of the transit projects, we budget the full amount and then we recoup our expenses from the other groups.
Cost sharing, Richard.
Cost shared.
It's cost sharing
With
with
Stratford, Cornwall, and us.
And we always follow the same, the 75, 15, 10. This one does not have any funding. We did spend some time looking for would there be funding to support this external, provincial, or federal funding, and unfortunately, it doesn't fit in any of the infrastructure programs. They won't do any expansion plans. They won't do anything strategic, anything even operational like this, where it's that type of work.
Well, we're going in the right direction.
We are.
Electrifying.
It's
a very electrifying motion.
There's a lot of money for,
Yeah.
renewable energy.
We have a very large implementation budget approved, just 23 million I think is our total that we have for the
Gave up
project
to 12,
implementation,
now we're back to
but this
23.
would not be considered an eligible expense.
Wow.
Which
Anyway.
I have feelings on.
You move it?
I move the resolution then.
I'll second.
I'll support it.
Motion carried.
Three amigos.
So this will go to finance and then council, but it'll also go to the committees of Cornwall and Stratford also. So we hope to have all the approvals completed the week of council meeting on that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn. Good. Thank you.
Wow, that was
Sure.
fast.
Thanks, Quinn.
That was
Thanks,
probably
Katrina.
the fastest